Hey guys, it's Brittany. So today we're going over the primary and secondary effects of medicines. It's a vital concept to understanding how homeopathy, well, at least to me, to conceptualize how homeopathy works, but also in prescribing. It has a lot of consequences on what symptoms you prescribe on versus not. But there's a lot of misconception out there about what it means. So it's usually translated as primary and secondary effects of medicines. Sometimes I've also seen positive and negative effects of medicines, which I find particularly confusing because it's just a weird way to say it. And then other places say, what's the other way? It's more that people, so there's two ways to interpret primary and secondary, right? So it can either be primary as in first and secondary as in second, which is indeed what it means. Or you could interpret it as primary as in first in importance, which is incorrect, and secondary as in, second in importance, which I think is probably why some people think that you can lump primary and secondary together, because they're thinking that they're just talking about how important they are, but really they're actually like totally different things, which I know is crazy. At least it seems crazy when I say it out loud. But it's also, I find it strange that nobody else seems to talk about this. I've heard that they talk about it in pharmacology, but I have not been able to find any pharmacological sources that talk about this phenomenon. They must exist. I must just not have the right search term, which is always the magic, isn't it? Finding the right search term. Anyway, so I think the best illustration of what Hahnemann actually meant, because of course that's what's important, is understanding what he meant, and then we can decide if we agree with him or not, but we can't decide if we agree with him or not until we know what he meant. His best description, I think, is in the medicine experience. So I've got the little section here for you. So in my copy, this is page 461, but every copy I've ever had has different pages, so I don't know how much that means to you. So he says, if we keep a healthy hand in cold water for some minutes, we experience in it a diminution, why can't I speak today, of temperature, cold, meaning the hand gets cold if it's kept in water for a little while, obviously. So the veins become invisible, the fleshy parts become shrunken, their size is diminished, the skin is paler, duller, motion is more difficult. These are the primary effects of cold water on the healthy body. See, now we even have the beginnings of provings, which I won't get into here, but anyway, on the healthy, right? We are not looking at a diseased hand. If we now withdraw the hand from the cold water and dry it, no time will elapse before the opposite state ensues. The hand becomes warmer than the other that had not been immersed, so the hand becomes warmer than the hand that was not put in cold. We will notice considerable turgescence of the soft parts. The veins swell, the skin becomes redder, the movements more free and more powerful than in the other, a kind of exalted vitality. This is the secondary or consecutive action of the cold water on the healthy body. Okay, so let's test what he says. So here I have some snow, because it is winter outside. So there's plenty of snow. I shouldn't say that. We've had the most ridiculously warm winter ever. Usually we've got months of snow, and we've had like 2 weeks and it's February, which is just depressing. Anyway, I've got snow today, and I'm going to put some water in it, and then I'm going to put my hand in for a few minutes, and we're going to watch what happens. So I've added the water. Excuse me, thanks. Okay, it is 11:08. I will keep my hand in for... I was going to say 5 minutes, but it's real cold. Maybe we'll do 3 or 4. Let's just see. So I can already feel some burning, and it already feels like it's going to be harder for me to move my hand around. Yeah, like it's already harder to move. Oof, it's really burning and aching now. Oi, oi, oi. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this for 3 minutes. Whew. Oh, and I think you can already see it's getting, my fingertips are getting pale. You can sort of see the reflection on the window, which is making me hard. Okay, that's about all I'm going to be able to do. Whoo-wee. Okay, so you can see my fingertips are already a bit pale, right? All right, now I'm gonna dry my hands off on my right hand. So now you can see it's already starting to get red again. And it's getting redder. And the feelings of cold are starting to get better. Like it's starting to feel, you know what? And now actually, it is legitimately warmer than my other hand. Like I feel a lot of heat in this hand. And my other hand just doesn't have any heat. Yeah. So I feel a little bit like Frankenstein doing this. But so these are my two hands next to each other. This is the treatment hand, right? And wow, actually that's true. Movement feels a lot easier in this hand. And you can see next to each other, the treatment hand is a little bit redder than the other one. Alright, so this is the secondary effect of cold, this redness. And the freeness of movement. And this one does feel a lot warmer than this one does. This one feels a little cool. This one feels very warm. Alright. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. This is homeopathy in action. So you might wonder what, so the point of all of this is that all medicines have this capability. Where an opposite exists, because as Joe Kellerstein would always say, there is no opposite to vertigo. But if an opposite condition exists, so when we're talking about a feeling of coldness, the opposite sensation, the feeling of heat, exists. So the primary effect is the feeling of coldness, and the secondary effect is the feeling of heat. In the case of vertigo, as Joe always would say, there is no opposite, so it's you feel vertigo and then you do not feel anything. You essentially go back to nothing, right? You can't feel not vertigo. Does that make sense? And so when you're in the cold, movement becomes a lot harder. You feel stiff. The opposite of that is movement feels very free and unencumbered, right? So primary effect, not being able to move, stiffness, and the secondary effect is more freedom of movement, right? So all medicines that that create effects that have an opposite exhibit this pattern. So think about coffee, right? If we have a cup of coffee in the morning, we have it because it improves our mood and it makes us more energetic, right? That's the point. Hahnemann actually has this, like, in his essay on the effects of coffee, he has this, like, saying, like, that coffee induces false euphoria. And like every morning when I wake up and I feel like the world is crap, I'm like, I need my hit of false euphoria badly. Anyway, so coffee has the primary effects of increased energy and false euphoria. And then we all sort of know that, like, afternoon slump, you feel more tired than you would have because you had that cup of coffee in the morning and your mood gets low. So it's the secondary effect, right? And it's the same for all medicines, right? And really, to me, I mean, this is sort of a big thing to say quickly and then end a video, but here it is to me, the primary difference between primary as in, like, the biggest in importance difference in homeopathy and other forms of medicine is, I think, in all forms of medicine, people are chasing after the primary effect, and we're essentially chasing after the secondary effect. So, to stick with temperature, for, heat creates burning, and in homeopathy, you use heat to treat burning. Like, if you get burned, you do hot water. You don't do cold water. And the reason is because the secondary effect of hot water is to feel less burning, to take the burning sensation away. Wait, that's not really correct. Let me say it in a different way. Coffee in homeopathy is used for insomnia. Coffee creates insomnia. And it's essentially like the primary effect of coffee is the reason we prescribe it, but really what we're chasing is the secondary effect. The fact that coffee makes you more tired later. And that's what we want. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but that's the way I actually think about it. And, another example would be opiates. In all other forms of medicine, people are chasing the analgesic effect of opiates, right? Because that's its primary effect. Opium takes away pain. That's what it does. And that's why it's prescribed after a surgery or something. But the secondary effect means that you're going to have more pain after it wears off than you would have if you never took it. And in homeopathy, we prescribe opium when you don't feel pain because it increases, in the secondary effect, your sensation of pain, which, if your sensation of pain is already out of whack, just brings you back to being normal. So anyway, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else but me, but that's how I think about homeopathy, and that's part of why I love it. So anyway, hopefully this gave you an idea of what a primary and secondary effect actually are, and maybe why Hahnemann was so obsessed with them. But it's a really key concept if you want to prescribe medicines. Okay, till next time.